No. Hi, Marcel. Oh, hold on, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
I am. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Fine, thank you. I'm really sorry. When I put it on the WhatsApp, I realized that I used the poster that still had Work Avenue on it. So I'm really sorry.
Don't worry. I didn't even notice. I haven't had time.
Okay. Just thought honesty is the best policy.
It's for tonight. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. I just realized I sent out. Do you remember you had the first one with Work Avenue and then you said, sorry.
Don't worry. Can I just test, because if Joanna's screen share doesn't work, I've got her presentation up and ready.
Okay, I've made you co-host.
Can I just?
And I'll make her co-host when she joins.
Can I just see if this works? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, because on the way it works on my screen, I never know whether it can be seen or not.
Yeah, I can see it perfectly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hopefully she'll be able to do the same.
Yeah, hang on. Stop sharing. I've just got two screens, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
There's nothing else we need, is there?
No, just
no.
Crossed.
Yeah, hope so. One of the people from next week sent me the photo, but the other one hasn't yet.
I saw that. I've had a message from Ilan, who's going to send me one either later today or tomorrow, and I'll forward you as soon as I can.
Fine, perfect. Cool.
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully all goes well tonight.
Let's hope. A bit smoother than the last time.
Yeah. I'll go on mute, because otherwise.
Yeah, I'm going to as well. Yeah. Okay, I might turn my video off as well.
That might be better read the potatoes up down. Come and get your food.
Listen, I can't. It's not going declare her loss hidden inside for 20 years. Joey Essex opens up about grief and me.
Now what? What you doing?
You're watching your.
I can't. I did not.
What?
I did not know how to do it.
Well, do you want to go and see it in there?
Yeah, you know how to do it for me?
I'll go.
Tomorrow at 10:45 on BBC One and I.
Hi.
Hi, Joanna. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Please do enable share screen.
You should be able to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Can't see it at the moment.
but you can't see it.
No. Yep, that's fine.
Not quite fine. There we are.
Can you stop screen sharing so that I can introduce? Is that okay?
Yeah. You are screen sharing. Full share. Is that it?
Still there.
Is it a problem? Have you got something else to share?
No, it's just I can that's fine. I can present, I can introduce from here. That's fine. Don't worry. Just leave it, it's fine.
Okay, stop share. Wow.
That's fine.
Should I just do that?
Just wait for a few minutes to join. I think people are still joining.
Program.
I think people are coming in out of the garden. The numbers are going up.
That's okay. We can, it's not a rush. It takes people time to arrive.
On va dessiner la cuisine avec vous. La cuisine de la maison.
On n'a pas déjà dessiné?
I think probably we should make a start. Yeah.
Sure, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, please could I remind everybody to make sure they're on mute this evening. Welcome to the second in our series of 3 talks on recovering from the COVID period. The pandemic has presented us all with a myriad of issues: COVID and long COVID, social isolation, furlough and unemployment, financial insecurity, and bereavement, to name a few. All these impacting on our emotional
introduction, and it's over to you. Are you sharing screen? Yeah, I will do. Just
Can we have some, can you go on mute, please? Thank you. Mental health charities have seen an increase in referrals for depression, and eating disorder services in the UK have seen the numbers for urgent referrals double. Even if we feel personally only mildly affected, we probably all know people who have suffered in the last 18 months. So today, I'm delighted to introduce Joanna, who may be a familiar face to many in the shul. Joanna has a master's degree and diploma in counselling and psychotherapy, and works in private practice as a psychotherapist, as well as being a supervisor at Brent Bereavement Services. Today, she is going to address the impact on our emotional well-being and guide us on ways to help us move forward out of lockdown. Please post your questions on the chat and I'll put them to Joanna at the end. So over to you, Joanna.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Say hello to everybody. I thought I'd just start with saying, first of all, sort of the nature of my work and the nature of the way that I work is I actually do very few talks. I'm not really a talker. And there's a reason for that, is because it's actually about providing space. A space because everybody is an individual soul, an individual sort of fountain of being and ideas. And ultimately, having that space to express oneself, for me, is at the center of everything. And that is also why it's a great opportunity, that having said, to give ourselves the space tonight. And space is something I'm going to talk about in a few different contexts as we go through this evening. The format of this evening is clearly on Zoom. Ideally, I would have liked to be in a group, in a room, meeting face to face, because that way we can respond to each other and sort of pick up on what we're saying. So we'll make the best with the limitation that we do have. I do have some slides and some talk that I'm going to talk about for the next 20 or so minutes, 30 minutes. If there's something concerning to you, you can either offer it at the end or in the middle. And also this is a time to be reflective. So this isn't me necessarily just talking and telling people what to do, because that's not what I do. It's about inspiring and looking at different ways of sort of reframing and understanding really what we're all been going through, because it touches every one of us. The title of this evening is Coming Out of Lockdown, the Emotional Transition. And that in itself is an interesting topic. Are we actually coming out of lockdown, and what does it mean to have an emotional transition? So we need to spend a little time at the beginning just understanding what are we actually going through. one of the most key things to understand is that people, all of us, are having a very natural response to what is, the world is out of balance. The fact that we might be feeling out of sorts and have lots of different feelings, we've been put in a very unnatural place. This is not usual times. And so rather than making us feel wrong or making us, pathologize people when they're feeling down, or it's okay to seek help. Some people really are depressed and need certain levels of help and integration with that. But all of us generally have probably felt a set of emotions and had the rug pulled from under our feet in a most unusual way. So what we're feeling, and the fact that we might be feeling uncertainty and all sorts of different things, is actually, it's a human response. It's a natural response. We are built like this to adapt to our environment, and our environment has changed dramatically. So I touched a little bit about space to navigate from within. So we all have this fountain from within us, and actually I run parenting workshops, also called Parenting from Within, because it's about listening to our inner voice, about navigating our emotional transition from within ourselves. Again, I just mentioned before about the limitations on Zoom, but really you can still tune into your own experience. And if you can offer that and you want to share that, then please do. So what's it all about? Healing, health. Actually, the word heal has a root in being whole. And the whole idea of sort of healing and being whole, that's sort of happening all the time. And life itself has a nature to try and help us progress, to move through life. It sort of happens naturally. It's a natural process of what we exist, of where we're living more. So on the one hand, mental health for me isn't just about mental health. It's about spiritual health, emotional health, physical health. It encompasses a whole realm of things. And never before has health been discussed so much, and yet so many people are struggling to such a large extent. And within this struggle, it's been COVID and the virus and the pressure. And in some respects, what we've been doing is the government, and they've been like almost like parents. It's like almost sort of going back to our family roots, our younger days. They've almost taken upon themselves to look after our health in many ways. They've been giving us instructions about how to be in all sorts of things, which is quite an unnatural way. And some of it actually is about having the space to recheck with ourselves, going back in. We actually have a responsibility to our inner world, to our own soul. How can we navigate this? And what resonates with us from everything that's been directed, and what's our relationship to it? So health is also about our relationship. And when we can be in touch with that, we can understand a little bit more about our emotional response. So these are really challenging ideas, big ideas. And that brings me on to sort of talk about the idea of transition. This is not an easy transition. So transition is really about moving from one state of being into another. Even in good times, and we go through many transitions in life. We go through different phases, from different stages of life, different life moments. And even then, it's the most complicated thing. But it can be difficult, can be challenging. But this is not a regular transition. We've been told that we're coming out of lockdown at least 3 to 4 times already, through different other endings of lockdowns, or different stages, or all different sorts of aspects throughout the country, and different zones and where you live. It's very difficult to navigate. Right now, we've been told that the reality of coming out of this lockdown is going to be on the 21st of June, as we go into summer. But actually, we don't really know they don't really know if this lockdown will end. So how are we going to prepare to make this transition? How are we going to prepare emotionally? It's easier to do something when you know where you're going. But transitions, when you don't know where you're going, bring up all sorts of different difficult feelings. This gives rise to things like feeling anxious, anxiety, depression, feeling nervous, can feel disappointed. You can't go on the holiday that you just thought you were going to go on, or you just booked and you suddenly have to come back again. You can feel very angry. It might not make sense to you as to why the goalposts have suddenly moved, or it might be, or you might be angry that someone else's goalposts are different to your goalposts. You can feel betrayed. There can be an enormous sense of sadness and also grief. Grief for all sorts of different things. Grief for the loss of the holiday you thought you were going to have. Grief for the loss of the person. It's not to make it this, on an equal level, but, the loss of the grief of the person that you've loved, one you may have lost. All different types of grief. Grief for the lost university year that you thought you might have had. But it might not be, it might have been the way you thought it was going to be, the expectation that you would have had. So these are really complicated transitions. And what you have to bear in mind, that not only are you trying to get to terms with all these difficult emotions and transitions, and you're walking around with all this sort of pot of difficulty, but also if you have children, your children are. If you have parents, your parents are. Your friends, your neighbors. And all of this, you can imagine, everyone's going around with their full pots. And this affects their own interpersonal relationships. So it makes life a lot more complicated. And, we're sort of trying to deal with throughout the year, do you have school? Do you not have school? The goalposts are completely changing all the time for different people in different ways. So this is really sort of a paradigm of what we're in, and some of the challenges that we're actually trying to face. So here I've tried to show that these are complex times, and rather than it's about understanding we are rebalancing. This is applicable to all of us. We're trying to deal with all these different aspects. Now you might wonder why there have been a lot of negative things and also some positive things. And I put them all in the balance because there's a real reason that I put the positive there as well. Because if we're mindful of what we've got from the whole time when we're in this cocooned lockdown, there have been so many positives that sometimes our fear of coming out and of transitioning is that we might lose some of those new positives that we've just gained, and we don't know how to do that. So I'm going to run through some of these negatives that we've had and some of the positives, because it's also quite easy to forget. And these are just some of the things that occurred to me, and I'm sure you all have your own experiences. You might resonate with some, you might want to make note of some things that are really particular to you. So when we started a year or so back, over a year ago, the fear of getting ill, we didn't really understand the paradigm of it. What was the real fear? We carry, fear has a physical impact on our body. It increases the cortisol, well, all emotions do, but it, increases the cortisol. We have a stress response. So there's a real fear of getting ill. We've been constantly bombarded by the media with data. You've almost become desensitized by it. But, especially, about sickness and death and numbers and figures. Some people have had a real fear of loss of work, and the financial strain has been felt by many people. We've had to work out how to adapt. Some of people's hands are sore from all the hand sanitizer. Some people can't deal with masks, social distancing, not having a hug. There was a real basic fear of running out of food. The shelves were empty. There was real basic things such as toilet paper. I mean, that's the extent to what we've been through. There's a real ongoing thing of the fear of infecting others. The issue about vaccinations is an ongoing issue. People feel very broad spectrum, all sorts of different relationship towards vaccines, and people are excited, and so the whole difficulty has been it's been a very difficult issue. There's even waiting for the vaccination, waiting for the hope that this might be different to what it is right now. I think one of the other big challenges really is that whilst we've had to deal with all these other negative issues in the sort of living circumstance, I don't know if someone's not on mute, but whilst we've had to deal.
Please, can I ask everybody to mute?
So whilst we've had a lot of difficulty, we've been living a different kind of existence. Everyone has been suddenly packed in at home, and working at home and school, and everything's been on top of each other. Relationships sort of have changed. I'll give you an example. So a couple might get along very well when one person goes out to work all day and the other person has a different space at home and they're working at home, and suddenly they have to share. That requires new negotiation, new different understanding of the space. Other coping mechanisms, when people get irritated at someone else in their home, they might need to go out for, go and see a particular friend in order to deal with that sort of issue or upset. And those other old coping mechanisms haven't been there. So now you have like a double negative. You have the existing feelings that are difficult as a result of lockdown, plus you can't cope with what you've been coping in the past. So these are real challenges. Isolation, obviously, is a really difficult one for all sorts of people in all sorts of ways, and for all of us at different times. And you can even, people living alone and not seeing family members, or family members not being able to visit them, whether they're around the corner or the other side of the world. It's been really difficult, and also attend to them when they're ill or if they're in hospital, or, I put also, we are the Jewish community in the synagogue, that whole contact of being in person. We had a fantastic, on Zoom, but that's a whole new adjustment, and that contact that we could know and be together was completely lost, and that is central to people's lives. And again, the conditions changed at home, at work, at university. They're just very different to what we knew before. So some of the positives that I think I've heard people say, and I can relate to, is again about having space to maybe to tune in, to get to know ourselves better, or just to have some quiet that we didn't have before. There have been people talk about other silver linings, having an intimate connection with people. Some people have had their family members home when they were always out to work, and they never had that enjoyment before. Or it could be a neighbor up the street that you never really knew before, or there's just different opportunities to connect, perhaps if you were doing some kind of volunteering. Another one is that time. People have found a lot more time. There's time to fulfill. For example, people felt almost enslaved to inviting people over and making a sense of entertainment. But actually, by not having to do all of that, they felt quite relieved and had more time to do some other things. So there were some other external social pressures. Feeling restful, nature, reconnecting with nature, less pollution, returning to some kind of handicrafts, baking sourdough, doing more exercise, these new discoveries, like new collaborations. And really, I put there Jewish Life Reinvented, because there have been some phenomenal programs from Shul and, you know, different ways that we've learned how to do things, from doing shivers and connecting people from around the world, which we never knew possible, having different types of services, having different types of music. So really, why am I going through all of this? Because I think it's important to understand what some of the things that we've been through, and some of the things that actually mindfully you might want to hold on to in your own life, because transitioning out of this sort of cocoon period is an opportunity. There's actually a loss again. There's a new transition, there's a new adaptation. And so can you then create in your own structure as we come out? What can you take with you? How can you hold the walk that you used to do, that you had the time? Can you then make that time in your day? What else can you do that actually makes you feel good? And I think furthermore, that we're not actually going to exactly the place where we were. This is a whole new paradigm we're moving on to. It's unfamiliar. It's a whole new set of circumstances. So that's why I call it rebalancing. We're trying to rebalance ourselves in life, and trying to do perhaps what can help us take this space and time to make ourselves more whole, more healthy. Is this an opportunity to go forward with what we've actually learned? What have we learned for ourselves that can help us emotionally, that can help us healthily, that can help us? So these are complex times. And now I'm going to focus on how we can actually focus on our health. So you've got a big picture of the heart there, and the heart and feelings. And I talk a lot about feelings because feelings really matter. Feelings, emotions are the center for me of a lot of our experience, and they dictate and drive a lot of our of why and how we do things. So to start again, you know, space is at the top there. Why space at the top there? Because often we don't actually give ourselves space in order to experience our feelings. We numb our feelings. We spend a lot of time avoiding them because they can be quite tricky. So we can avoid them with alcohol, busy on our phones, Skyping, you know, doing all sorts of things rather than spending time. So focusing on your health at the beginning is about creating a space. Feelings can be both beneficial and difficult. So in a very practical way, I mean, a couple of ideas, you'll, I'm sure, have your own ways that you'd like to create space or not create space, like walking, sitting quietly, having a long bath, you can do meditation. It's really your way, but it's making these ideas conscious. It's bringing it into your life. How do you want to do that? Now, I put feelings of very valuable information. So I'll give you an example. If you think about a sensation, so it's probably more familiar. If you go and you have a hot stove and you touch a hot pan with your finger, you automatically take your finger away. There's the pain, it's hot, you have information and you respond to it. Sensations are part of our everyday life, but actually feelings are the same. Feelings are also really valuable information. I think the difference is sometimes we've lost the practice. We're so busy, we don't pay attention to our feelings in the same way. So if you have a difficult emotion or you're feeling sad, it's about absolutely, rather than sort of pushing it away, it's there to tell you. So to tell you something, what are you actually sad about? What's actually going on for you? If you intuit something about someone else that you're with and it doesn't feel quite right, what's going on for them? What is it? So rather than making people and things and wrong or don't like that, it's rather less black and white. It's more like, what's it trying to tell me? What's going on here? Take a seat back. So it's about creating space, having a look at what feelings are coming up. And then understanding there's a spectrum of feelings. They can come and go. Their feelings are actually not good or bad. Some feelings are more pleasant and some feelings are very unpleasant. But just because they're unpleasant doesn't make them wrong. It makes it information. It's allowing us to understand. So for me, it's about paying attention to our feelings. And you can get help with this. You can discuss them with people you trust. And you can also help others and listen to other experiences and provide them with space. Because the more that you can practice, it might sound simple, but it's actually a practice, and it's actually much harder. And it's about creating. And the more you can have a practice of actually being in touch with them, and it might be quite intolerable at times. You know, maybe you don't want to go for a long walk by yourself. Maybe, or sit quietly for a long time, maybe just for 2 minutes, and then a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer. It's about building it up, if that's something that you're interested in. But I find them very valuable, and it's connecting back to your inner world, because rather than being bombarded by the outside world and everything else that we're being told what to do. I want to really put things in context. So we have had a really difficult set of conditions put upon us. And they came on very, very quickly. The whole concept of lockdown and the panic, and we're still in this very difficult place. And we're not actually, I said, humans are not built for that. We're not actually designed to do that. We're built in a way to gradually absorb things, to grow towards things. And so we've been immersed in something, not by our choice. It hasn't organically come from us. It's been imposed, and we've had to adapt. So I say that because if you're feeling out of sorts, it's really understandable. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. It's about, wow, okay, now I can respond. So we're coming out of this and trying to understand what is good for us. So in that, we can also support ourselves by, like a little bit like I said before, if you found something good that was working for you during the lockdown, carry on doing it, build it up more. Part of our fear of coming out of transition is actually losing what was helpful to us. And we've got, so it's really being quite mindful, giving yourself some time to think about that. And I've also sort of listed some other supportive practices you may find, or something of value, or find your own ways. So some things that came to me is journaling, spending time with people you love, or people that just make you feel better, or that listen, or that do something. You can discern, you can actually go in there consciously, but if that doesn't make you feel quite good, maybe actually you don't want to hang out there so much. A place perhaps where you'll be heard, where you can share your experiences. I have a particular interest in dreams, and I spend a lot of time trying to understand the dreams, and also trying to understand the meaning of my experiences. So, for example, if I'm sort of disappointed that I might not have been able to have done something that I would have liked to have done, actually, what was the meaning behind that? What was the meaning behind what actually did happen, rather than just try and be in the disappointment? And actually, I wanted to go back to that. I don't know if you can see that because I've got the things at the bottom of the screen. But the other part where you do have, what do you have? So how can you actually enable your health? So what is in your control? Nutrition, exercise, taking responsibility for yourself in ways that actually make you feel good. And I'm a big fan of a lot of vitamin C, vitamin D, and it can just work out. Does this make you feel better? Building up your immunity, building up a positive response really helps you feel healthy. I'm then going to sort of talk about focusing on the health of others. So that's how we can help ourselves and how we can help others. I actually didn't write up the word help there. I said focus on the health of others. And there's a reason for that, because you can offer someone space, you can be with them, but ultimately it's each person's own choice and of how they are. It's very hard to help someone else. But again, at the top of the list is space. So if you give people space, the people that you love, the people that you come in contact with, you'll help them to share their feelings. So sharing their feelings is very valuable. I've actually put at the top there a picture of a mother and a child, and it just for me really illustrates everything, how she's got down on her knees, she's attending to him, she's genuinely interested in where he's at on his level, she's meeting him, she's created the space, and she's showing that she's interested. And that is everything. That picture for me captures 1,000 words. So listening, is it active or passive? Are you actually going to pay attention to what they're saying, or is it just in the background? So there are certain conditions to help sort of this whole situation and put up the setting. So, you know, distractions such as the phone, are you tapping away on the computer at the same time you're on the phone to the other person? All of these, you're going to sit with them. What's interesting is sometimes the people that we live with, often we don't give them the amount of space. Sometimes it's the strangers or the other people, because you actually have to go somewhere. So it's a little exercise to be at home, to actually make it conscious, to sit down together, to actually create the conditions where you both feel supported, where you can actually stop and listen to the other person, or outside of the home, or however that might be. And again, you know, do I actually have 10 minutes now, or shall I do it later? You know, create the time frame, creating that space. And there are other things as well that you can really do to know someone that you really care and you're there for them. I put follow their lead. You know, I have a friend who works or helps actually visits a Holocaust survivor, and she told me, oh, you know what? It makes me so sad. She says that how much she misses her husband who passed away, and I just try to change the subject because it feels too sad. And actually, what I say is that if they're telling you something, it's because they're feeling sad about it anyway, or they have feelings. It's because they want to talk to you about it. So just follow their lead. Find out more questions about the husband, the memories, what is it that exactly that they miss. So you don't have to be, you know, just explore and carry on with what they're saying. You can't make someone feel something that they're not feeling. And part of that is asking open questions rather than closed questions. So an open question would be something like, tell me more about that. I'm wondering about that. What was your experience like when you did the walk on the heath last week? Or how was it for you? So it's a very open rather than a closed question, which is something like, I don't know, did you enjoy it? Are you feeling sad? Or something like this. So you're really showing an interest in the other person. It's also good to check in with yourself. Who's helping you? Who? Are you filling the space talking about you, or are you really giving the other person a chance to speak about them? Not everybody feels the same way about a particular issue. So you could have gone to the same event with a friend, and actually they feel about it completely differently. It depends who they are and what their experiences are. you really don't have to fix people. Actually, you can't fix people. So it's not about trying to make their situation better. Don't underestimate what it is to listen, to be there for someone. And I said here, you know, the reason to focus on others is because love is essential. And fundamentally, it drives healing. The connection between person and person. There's so much more than just what the words we say. It's the being together. It's the feeling together. It's this actually is a healing experience. And actually makes people release this different hormones and makes people heal and feel more whole inside. And I'm sure you can even feel that in your own experience. So there's a real reason there in terms of being healthy and sharing with others. And that really brings me towards the end of my formal things. I mean, in the discussion, you may have questions. I'm also asking, so what is your experience? What obstacles, what advantages or disadvantages have you had at home or with friends, at school, at work, or in the wider community? And another question is, what would you like to focus on for your health? So I think that really this is now a space of more of an open space, and if you'd like to sort of go through Marcel or ask me anything that, or something that's touched you or resonates or that doesn't resonate, or something that is part of your experience, I'm open to hearing, or if you have a question about anything.
Thanks, Joanna. I think as Joanna's just said, if anybody would like to write questions on the chat or speak, please put a note in the chat, and then I can ask you to unmute. I think it's been really interesting to have the space with Joanna to reflect on what's happened to us and think about focusing on ourselves and focusing on other people. However, I think when we are concerned about other people and we have tried to talk to them, people are worried about what else we can do. What else can we suggest? How can we encourage people to help themselves or perhaps seek professional help? And I just wondered, Joanna, what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. Thank you. That's a great question. And there's I think, first of all, it stems up by building the relationship with the person. So what is your current relationship with that person? How are you with that person? And what is going on for them that's different to how they normally are? So what brings you to sort of think that they need professional help? So you might have your own observations. And then I think when you make the space and you sort of building up on that relationship and have some dialogue with them, then you can ask them, it's much better, rather than telling them what they need, ask them how they're feeling, what their experiences are, what they're like in different situations, why they're spending all day in bed at the moment, how it is for them, is it really difficult for them? And try and understand what the obstacles are. Then sort of with them, sort of try and say, okay, so what support would you like? Can we do this together? And I think it's about being alongside rather than telling people what to do. It really depends also who it is, but generally, and then hopefully you can go together and sort of provide perhaps a list of, you know, people. There are, you know, resources out there. I can go through them if people actually want to help navigate the sort of the spectrum of health. you can go to your GP. There are sort of counselling. There's Raphael Counselling, which is a Jewish counselling service. There's Brent Bereavement Service. There's the teenage helpline called J-Teen, which is specifically for Jewish teenagers aged 13 to 20. There's many different charities and organisations out there. And if people want some help also navigating that, I put my email in there. I don't mind if people can contact me in confidence. But to answer your question, I don't think you can force people, but I think at first you need to be alongside them and offer the options and offer the possibilities and be interested. Hopefully the relationship will be strong enough to offer the interest to go together. And it's not always easy because there can be other dynamics at play. You know, that's the ideal number one. And then there are other places, and we can go into more detail if they're more specific.
Questions that people that knew doing the talk today have said. One is might not be a relative, it might be
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Might be if you're worried about the mental health of someone who might not be a relative, might be somebody you've come into contact with by the synagogue, and you don't feel close enough to have a conversation with them. What sort of thing would you suggest that people do if they're worried about somebody that they don't know so well in the community?
It's a great question. I think you can also sit down, just take an interest, maybe in school or after, just befriend, reach out, take notice of them, and then actually point out to either the share team, send an email into the office, notice someone, point them out to the Rabbanim, someone else has a relationship with them. If you're noticing it, you might not be the only one that notices something. But I would bring attention to it, and I wouldn't just let it go. If you're really concerned, it's on your conscience, and I would first engage with the person. And if you really feel uncomfortable, like I say, get help to make an approach.
I suppose there are organisations, for example, I know as part of the share team, there are organisations like Jewish Care that we can contact as well, people can contact as well, which can be anonymous if you're very concerned about the well-being of somebody. And so Jewish Care would be for the elderly as well, obviously.
Absolutely. Jewish Care, Jamie. The one thing I would really emphasize is that there are great organizations out there, really great, and do great work and support them. But also, you know, what is normal difficulty and just hearing somebody, and when do you need to go to the other organization? And when you get into the organizations, it's trying to understand the conditions that people have been exposed to, rather than just making them wrong. Because like I said throughout the speech, some of these responses are really, you know, healthy responses to difficult situations. So it's a very fine line. It requires a lot of very fine tuning and navigation. And if you're really concerned, really engage with the person, and if you can't, find help, like I said before.
And I think following on from that, we're all concerned about the mental health of our teenagers. And I just wonder what you think the red flag signs are, and what we should do if we're very concerned about the behaviour of our teenagers, if they're abnormal behaviour. Because there's a lot of concern out there, and in normal situation for the well-being of our teenagers. And obviously with COVID, that's been highlighted. The referrals are going up, as I mentioned in my introduction. So what are the things that parents should be concerned about?
Well, first of all, if there's not a prescription, you're the one that lives with your teenager. You're the one that knows your teenager and what they're normally like. So, for example, you can't make a rule that if they get out of bed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that everyone that gets out of bed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon obviously has something wrong. It's when their behavior is unusual that's when you're tuning in. So that's where you also have to use your own inner, that's where the whole idea of space and sort of giving your own feelings, trying to connect them. Oh, something feels unusual about my teenager, that something's out of sync. So that is a prime great example. When you tune into your feelings, you sit with that, and then it's worth just giving yourself this moment. Right, I'm going to approach them. What's going to help the most? Just take a deep breath. Because they might be very resistant. You know, it's not about making them wrong. So if they're doing something that's really irritating you, or something that is you've asked them 100 times and they're still doing it, maybe actually that's because that's their way of communicating to you that they're in distress. They're doing it because they're trying to draw attention to something. So don't make them wrong. Be curious. Why are you still doing this? I've noticed that, you know, I've asked you about this. Is there something else going on? And so that would be a really good sort of entrance into opening up a heartfelt dialogue with your teenager. And then you can begin to be curious. Okay, well, that's a struggle there. What other struggles are you facing? Does that come from school? Are you getting bullied? What are the things that are going? So to try and make that relationship. And if that's really difficult for you, maybe ask if they've got a sort of, I don't know if they've got an uncle or a brother or someone else that can sort of help just elicit some more information that's going on for them. I think what's difficult, and then you've got a bit more of a scope, so you've got them engaged, and then perhaps they might need, you know, extra support, professional support, which you must engage with. But and I would also recommend that you give yourself a space, either with your own professional or just with a partner, to actually process how their behavior or whatever's going on for them is affecting you, so that you can be more available to be there for them, if that makes sense. The whole essence of what you're trying to do is to say, how can I meet them? This is unusual. I know it can be really irritating. I've got feelings about them. Let me park my feelings somewhere else or offload them to my friend or whoever it is, and let me see how I can be there and what they need. And the more that you can clear the space, the more that you can tune in if you need a professional or something else.
I think that's really, really helpful. All about communication is what we're all talking about. I think we've got a question from Joel. Any tips for getting to sleep?
For getting to sleep? Well, I first ask, what's the obstacle to getting to sleep? You know, it's interesting. Someone, you know, what's the difficulty? Is it because they're worried? Something's on their mind? You know, is there any more information there? I don't know if they want to, you know, come on the screen and we can talk to them. But so is it a worry where you can, you know, I can tell you things like, you know, they're more cognitive behavioral responses. You can I can give you good suggestions. Write your worries on a piece of paper before you go to bed. Share them with somebody. But, you know, it's very hard for me to just answer that without sort of resonating and understanding what is the key. What's actually going on for the person. There are, yeah. So parking your worries, you know, putting them in a little box, saying, I'll deal with that tomorrow, you know, making to-do lists. I'll just deal with this much today. I'll sort of the rest tomorrow. There might be real feelings that are keeping you awake. There might be real upset. So actually what I would do, if they're real, I would sit, give some space and understand, why am I actually finding it hard to fall asleep? What's actually concerning me? What are my actual anxieties? So feelings, again, are information. They're there to let you know. And if you can actually pay attention to them, then they stop coming up in the same way. They'll keep on coming until you don't, until you recognize them.
Thank you. Hopefully that's given some food for thought to all of us. We've actually just got another question. If you're suffering stress, sometimes it's difficult to offload your feelings to family or friends if you feel you are burdening them or feel that they may feel guilty they can't help. So what if you don't feel like offloading to a friend? If someone's trying, friends.
Well, I really recommend therapy. I really recommend therapy. There are so many there are different ways. There's the Jewish Raphael Counseling Service, which at the end of the day is it is a charity. It's available. It's there. There are the counseling directory website. So, for example, if you go onto counseling directory, right there you have everyone's accredited in order to become a member of the directory. They all have their qualifications there, and then it's about the relationship. In essence, it's about the relationship. And there is a difference between offloading of your feelings on family and friends, because they're not equipped. They can do it to a certain extent, and they might mean all the best in the world, but they might also get tired, or they've got their own load of feelings to deal with. And there's something to be said for having a regular time each week or each month or whatever it might be. It can also be on Zoom, or it can be in person. I personally am working a hybrid approach on Zoom, in person, do groups as well. And it's like a container. Someone else is sort of helping share those feelings and concerns. And of course, it's also going back into exploring all sorts of other issues that you've had to been through and other experiences. So I do recommend therapy if that's something of path you want to pursue. It's not the only path. There are other things you can do.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joanna. I think we should probably round up now. I think we've had some good questions, and it's been really, really helpful to just have the space, as you say, to sit and reflect. And I think we'll all take away lots of thoughts, and hopefully we'll all sit and reflect even more. Just want to say a really big thank you for speaking this evening and helping us all move forward out of lockdown.
Well, sorry,
go on.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity, and you know, I hope that I have illustrated that it's okay to have a range of feelings, and that we're all sort of trying to navigate this and deal with unprecedented, uncharted territories. And reach out if you want to reach out. You're very welcome to contact me and sort of to help navigate some of the difficulties or point in the right direction. And you know, I wish everybody a good balance and connection to their inner life in order to help navigate from inside through these really difficult times. And I wish people a lot of strength and love and healing, and really the best.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I just think I'll finish now by just saying to move forward again out of lockdown, our final talk in this series will be next Tuesday, and that will be from Paperweight, an organisation that helps people to sort out anything from financial to legal to social issues. And that's going to be introduced by our own member, Ilan Chaitovich. So hopefully some of you will join us next Tuesday. But thank you, everybody. And thanks, Joanna.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.